Back in 2010, when director Lee Unkrich first pitched his idea to make Coco, it was going to be a completely different movie than the one we know and love today. Yippee-ki-yay movie lovers, it's Jan here, and in this video I'm going to reveal some of the dramatic changes that Pixar made to its 19th feature film during the course of its development. By the way, I'm running a giveaway for this gorgeous Art of Coco hardback book, filled with stunning concept art for all my subscribers. To enter, leave a comment below with your thoughts about the Coco movie we never got to see, and make sure you're subscribed to my channel. Quick warning, I will be talking spoilers for the movie, so take care if you've not seen it yet. Originally, Coco was going to be a full-on traditional musical, which would have been a first for Pixar. Yes, the film was going to feature 6 full-length songs, including several show-stopping song and dance numbers, all written by Robert Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez, the husband and wife songwriting team behind Disney's Frozen. Coco's creators even toyed with the idea of naming the film Remember Me after Ernesto de la Cruz's biggest hit, which was the first song they composed. Indeed, speaking on the Q&A podcast with Jeff Goldsmith, Coco's screenwriters revealed that in early versions of the movie, Miguel's ancestors in the land of the dead were all cursed, so they couldn't talk, but could only communicate by singing, which they all hated because, as we know only too well from the final film, the Rivera family absolutely hates music. The filmmakers worked on this full-on musical version of Coco for several years before eventually abandoning that idea as they felt it just wasn't working. That's when they took inspiration from films such as Once and Oh Brother Where Art Thou, and instead of having the characters in Coco burst into song about their feelings, they decided to only include music that was driven by actual performances. For example, when Miguel sings on stage in The Land of the Dead, or when Hector sings to Chicharrón, which was a scene that co-writer and co-director Adrian Molina came up with. For the team behind Coco, this new approach felt truer to the kind of tale they wanted to tell, and it also meant they could showcase more Mexican-influenced music and make more use of the extensive research they carried out for the film. On top of that, it also gave the filmmakers more time to concentrate on the emotional side of the story they were telling. However, just because Coco changed from being a full-on musical doesn't mean that everything the filmmakers worked on in that initial version was thrown out. For example, the Papel Picado sequence, which opens the final film, actually started live as part of a musical number in the middle of the movie. Speaking of Coco's opening scenes, that part of the film changed several times over the course of the film's development. Initially, the movie was going to begin with a full-on musical number called Dia de los Muertos, featuring performers on stage in 1950s Mexico City. The filmmakers thought the song and dance routine would help introduce the idea of the Day of the Dead, especially to viewers who hadn't grown up with that particular tradition. So the deleted opening scene includes important items for the holiday. For example, the ofrenda, an altar set up to honor a person's ancestors, foods such as calaveras or sugar skulls, pan de muerto or sweet rolls, and mole sauce, and also marigolds, which you can see throughout the performance. This deleted scene was actually the first scene that Adrian Molina storyboarded on the movie, and there's much to enjoy about it, including the catchy tune which emphasises the celebratory nature of the Day of the Dead, and there's lots of clever little touches too, like the marigold design of the parasols carried by the female dancers, and the way the altar transforms into a skull and finally a full skeleton. Dia de los Muertos, Dia de los Muertos. In the end, the filmmakers decided to cut the musical opening, as instead they wanted us to meet the movie's main character, Miguel, straight away, so we could learn all about him and his family and their polar opposite feelings about music. And lots more songs ended up getting the chop after the directors decided against making a Disney-style musical. One of those songs was from the film's first act and was called Way of the Riveras. Basically, Miguel's family sings to him about what it means to be a member of the Rivera family, and how he must continue their traditions, like it or not, which essentially means that he has to make shoes rather than music. And to emphasise that point, at the end of the song, Miguel's grandmother swipes his guitar away from him. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this particular song, but it gets across the idea of family obligation that it was going for. However, it does seem rather odd to have the Riveras break into song to express themselves when a major plot point of the movie is that the Rivera family absolutely hates music. And that's exactly what the creators of Coco realised wasn't working about the full-on musical version of the film.
Riveras! We do what we do because it is the glue to the beautiful life that we got. Riveras! Delicioso! Riveras are tethered together forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and whether we like it or not.
Thank you, Abuelita. That was very educational. Now can I borrow your workbench?
While the Way of the Riveras tune didn't make it into the final film, the movie does include a scene that gets the same point across, by showing Miguel's relatives telling him that from now on, after his school days finished, he'll join them working in their family shoemaking business because, as they tell him, you are a Rivera, and a Rivera is a shoemaker through and through. However, the music wasn't the only major change that Coco underwent during its 6 years of production. Director Lee Unkrich's original idea for Coco was to tell the tale of a young boy in the United States whose father was American and whose mother was Mexican. In the script for that initial story, the boy visits Mexico for the Day of the Dead, and as he faces his grief for his mother who's passed away, he eventually learns to move on and let go of her. Of course, approaching the story in this way would have meant that Coco would have been told from an entirely different perspective, specifically an American one. What really changed the filmmaker's mind was that after several research trips to Mexico and everything they discovered about Dia de Muertos, they realised that the story they were planning to tell about grief and letting go of a loved one who's died was not what the Day of the Dead was actually about. Instead, Unkrich said he learned that Dia de Muertos isn't about grieving, it's a celebration. It's about remembering those family members and loved ones who've passed and keeping them close. So the team behind Coco decided to ditch their initial story idea and focus instead on the themes of family and music, setting the movie entirely in Mexico. Now, would you have liked to see Coco as a full-on musical movie? And what did you enjoy most about the final film? Let me know in the comments below, and also make sure you subscribe for a chance to win this beautiful Art of Coco book. If you enjoyed this, remember to like and share and hit the notification bell to get all my new videos. And you can also tap the screen here to check out all the Easter eggs you missed in Coco, plus some other cool Pixar videos. Thanks for watching and see you next time, yippee-ki-yay movie lovers!